way back when I went on our first vacation like I ever had. When I was probably 10 or 12 years old, my folks one summer decided to go up to Uncle Pete's in Minnesota. Uncle Pete was my mother's brother. He had asthma and he went up to Minnesota to live when he was first married way back in the early 1900s. He lived there all his life. He couldn't stand the weather around in this country. He couldn't breathe. So anyway, they got organized. My dad and mother and us and a couple of us, three of us kids, and my Uncle Bob and his boy, his wife, and Charlie Ellis and his wife, and their son, who was about 19 or 20 years old. He'd worked in a garage, and he was considered to be an expert with cars. He especially wanted him to go along to help. So we took off, 3 cars and a cavalcade, and all dirt roads and gravel and sand all the way up there, no pavement whatsoever that I can remember. Took 2 full days to get there. Remember, we stayed overnight in a big old barn-like hotel somewhere in a small town, I don't know where. Next day we had a little car trouble, had to find a garage somewhere to get fixed up. I think we got there at the end of the second day without further mishap. Quite an adventure. My Uncle Pete's had several children about my own age, and I had spent a week, had a wonderful time playing most of them along the river and creek. I wasn't big enough to go fishing, or wasn't considered to be, but we went down the creek. I guess we fished a little there, we played a lot. I remember having a wonderful time. My cousins up there are still my favorite cousins, mainly because I never forgot that trip. As far as I know, there were no resorts in that country then. I remember once while we were there, Uncle Pete took us all on quite a long trip to a lake to go fishing. All 4 cars went. Drove through the back road country hills. I remember one place had a sand hill they couldn't climb. They turned the cars around and backed them up. For some reason or other, they had more power going backwards than forwards. They got there, and somehow they got a hold of an old rowboat to use. And there was an old deserted house on the lake shore. We moved into that and lived in it for 1 or 2 nights, and really had a time going fishing. Caught a lot of northern pike. My Uncle Pete all ridiculed the idea of calling them pike. To him, he was just plain pickerel. I remember to keep the fish, they had a 10-gallon milk can along. They set that out in the water, and stuck the live fish in it, head down, full in the milk can. They kept them alive that day. That way, they got ready to go home and dress them out. One time, long ago, a farmer lived far out in the desert. He had 3 sons. 2 of them were brilliant boys, and it was obvious they should be educated. But he had to send them far across the desert to the city, to the university. His 3rd son was a dummy, and it was obvious he was good for nothing but a farmer, so we decided he should stay home and help his father while the other boys got their education. Tell me that ain't working. After they had been gone for some time, they sent word had their education was completed and they're ready to come home. So he sent the younger dummy boy out to meet them and guide them back home across the desert. And as they were walking across the desert and bragging about their experiences, they came upon a pile of bones. "Now," said the oldest boy, "with the things I have learned, I can turn those bones into an animal." And he proceeded to rearrange the bones and draw a skin over them, and he developed a giant tiger lying on the desert. "Now with what I have learned," said the second boy, "I can bring that tiger to life." And he proceeded to make some motions and do some hocus pocus, and the tiger began to move, and his tail began to twitch, and he raised his head and looked around. "Say, we better get out of here," said the 3rd boy, dummy boy. And he proceeded to go climb a tree, but the 2 smart boys stood by and admired their handiwork, and the tiger raised up and devoured them. Now, which was the smart boys?